All right, we're in 9.3. We have learned all the ways to solve the quadratic equation, and now we're going to kind of switch gears. Everything we have dealt with quadratics has been in like this form, ax squared plus bx plus c. This is called standard form of a quadratic equation. There are other ways to look at a parabola, right? Today we learn about vertex form. We have a little bit of experience with parabolas. Isn't the vertex that point, like right there? It's either the minimum or the maximum of that bad boy, right? Why is this form of a parabola called vertex form? Well, that's because you can look right at the equation and tell where the vertex is. In this bad boy, didn't we have to do some work? We had to do like opposite of b over 2 times a and substitute that stuff in. So vertex form is kind of fancy, but we'll get used to it. It's like it's either y equals or f of x equals, depending on if they have it in function form or not. A, and then you see how they have parentheses, like times the quantity of x minus h squared. Bing! That's what makes it parabola, right? Remember, it's got to be the squared stuff right there. Plus k. Here's the cool part. The vertex is right here. It's the ordered pair h comma k. So you should be able to look at this equation with a little bit of practice and know where the vertex is. Can you kind of see this guy right here? First off, he's got a squared dude, right? And does he have parentheses? Yes or no? That's kind of like our first clue of, okay, this is probably in vertex form. H is right here. It is, sorry, that's not a highlighter. H is right here. It is this number in the parentheses. But check out your formula. What does H have in front of it? A plus or a minus? Minus. So it's kind of like the opposite is what that really is. So do you see how this really says minus 2 right there? The H value is really 2. And what's interesting is now we got to kind of step into super advanced land. H is really fancy for the x value of the vertex, right? So the x value of the vertex is 2, and then the y value of the vertex, he's going to be known as k in this form. What symbol's in front of the k? A plus or a minus? Plus. So it's kind of like what you see is what you get. This is a plus 4. I'm going to put a plus 4. So the vertex of that parabola is at 2, 4. And then if we had to do some graphing, which we'll do later, like we would plot that point first and do all the graphing. But this is just recognizing the vertex. So let's try number 2. First of all, is there a squared guy in him? Yes or no? So he's going to make a parabola. Are there also parentheses? You know, so he's in vertex form. H is always the number inside the parentheses, like right after the x. He says plus 2. Do we want to leave him a plus 2 or do the opposite of it? Opposite, right? So the x value of the vertex is going to be at minus 2. And then the y value of the vertex, they're trying to trick us. It's the number being added or subtracted right here. They're adding nothing. So like what number would be right there? 0, right? Cool. Let's see what you think. Only after 2 examples. If you mess up, no big deal. Could you find the vertex of this parabola right here? It's h comma k. Check it with your neighbor when you're all done. Check it with your neighbor. What do you think about the x value of the vertex? Who is known as h? Positive 7, right? Are we cool with that? So that's an opposite game. It's kind of like how I was. Okay, it's opposite game on that dude. And then this guy right here. Do you want 19 or negative 19? It's interesting because people are like, but it says a plus, right? You know, so it's like it's plus negative 19. So like the plus is really meaning it's what you see is what you get. It's not opposite game. This says negative 19. I'm putting negative 19. Does that kind of make sense? So it doesn't mean that that has to be a positive guy. Cool? So that's the gist of like vertex form of a parabola. It's handy. We didn't have to do any work at all to find the vertex. That's why it's called vertex form. But what they're going to have us do now is do some changing of around. Check out this guy right here. First question, is he even a parabola? Like if I was to graph that, would that be a parabola? Is there a, I'm not asking if it's in vertex form. I'm asking, is it a parabola, right? Is it got a squared guy as the biggest exponent you see, right? But what form is he in? Standard form or vertex form? standard, right? So they're asking us to change it from standard form into Vertex form. There are 3 ingredients you need to know, baby. You need to know H, you need to know, you need to know A, you need to know H, and you need to know K in that case. We need to know all 3 of these guys. And you know what's wild to me is the hardest one for most students is A. It's like, well, how do you find A? If you were to do that quadratic formula on this, do you know who like A, B, and C are? Do you like know those numbers? Which one of those is A? A is 2, right? Isn't it the number in front of x squared? B is -8 and C is 5. Are we cool to recognize that? So A is like a freebie, right? A is 2. I had to do no real work. But H is not a part of that formula. So we have to find it. It's the x value of the vertex. Look to a neighbor. Do you remember how to find the x value of the vertex when it's in standard form? Got it. It is the opposite of b over 2 times a, which I would like you to write that down. You'll be required for that. It just helps bring that stuff into memory. The opposite of b over 2 times a. So let's do that. Who's the opposite of b? 8. And 2 times a would be 4. So all this little bit of work I want to see. And then obviously we'll clean up 8 divided by 4, and that would be 2. Rock on? So H is the x value of the vertex. K is the y value of the vertex. How did we find the y value of the vertex once we had the x value of the vertex? Stuff before spring break. Yay, it's been a while, right? You know, so if you know 2 is the x value of the vertex, how do you find the y value of the vertex? What do? Substitute 2 in. Into what? What makes it work? Into? Well, obviously for x, but you want to put it in parentheses. So let's do it, man. Grab this bad boy. 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 5. You see how I am substituting the x value of the vertex, which has a new name of h, right, into that. Did you get -3 back? Cool? None of this has anything to do with like getting to, well, I shouldn't say this. This is not our final answer. They want us to write the equation in vertex form, so we have all 3 ingredients we need. We have A, we have H, and we have K. Let's take this generic guy and rewrite it. Where there's an A, we're going to put a 2. Where there's an H, we're going to put a 2. And where there's a K, we're going to put a -3. So here we go. Isn't it y equals A, how much is A again? 2. Then there's a parenthesis. So the way that's said is times the quantity. There has to be an x next to it, right? And then we just got to kind of do this. H is 2, right? Should we put a 2 in there or the opposite of that? It's opposite. So it's going to be -2. And then here's the most forgotten part. You need to square your parentheses. Like, don't forget about that. And then plus k. Let's not write plus -3, right? How about we just write -3? Sound cool with that? You see how I found A, H, and K, and then I rewrote this. If I was to graph this parabola right here and this parabola right here, they're identical. They are the same thing. They'll be right on top of itself. And I'll do that for you here in a little bit when we get a little more comfortable. I'll graph them on my calculator and show you. They're the same thing. Right? So let's do that again. This guy, help me because I know it's kind of the end of the year and we're not the most excited anymore. What form is that in? Standard form or vertex form? Cool. Let's find A. It's amazing, though, as we learn more and more things, how hard it is to realize, oh, yeah, A is just the number in front of x squared. And then H, I want the formula. It's the opposite of B over 2 times A. I want the formula. So 30 over -6, right? Cool. If you need to punch that in, punch it in. But 5 or -5? Yep. Make sure we're putting the negative in parentheses. We're going back into the OG problem right here, and we're going to put -5 in parentheses. That way when we square it, if I could hit the right button here, that way when we square it, it gets properly taken care of. So and Other things to watch out, do you have subtraction signs where you're supposed to have subtraction signs and negative signs where you're supposed to have negative signs? It's okay if it's like a number that's not between negative 10 and 10 also. It's like, well, how would you graph this? They're not asking us to graph it. You can have a vertex in wild, wild places. Did you get 2 back, though, on this guy? That's cool. So let's take that and put it into vertex form. Y would equal A times the quantity of x, and then since the h value is a minus 5, what would you like to put next? Plus 5. Opposite game, squared, plus 2. You can easily tell from that parabola, once you get trained right, that the vertex is at negative 5, 2 in that case. What do you think? It's only 2 examples. Nice. Let's do that again. This is in standard form. A, negative 1. Let's see if we can find h. Please write the little formula down. The more you write something down, the more you remember it. So we're doing opposite of b over 2 times a. And then if you get the h value wrong, you're pretty much going to get the k value wrong. That's also why I like to have you show some work. And then we've got that silly little negative in front of the x squared. Remember, he is not in the parentheses, right? That negative is outside the parentheses. So we got to punch that in carefully. Did you get 1 back? Nice. Write that parabola in vertex form. Check it with mine. Let's throw a bonus question on here. First, before the bonus question, are these two the same thing? Like that. Which way do these parabolas open? How did you note down? A value is negative. So could you tell that from vertex form also? Do you know which one of those is the A value? Right? Isn't it still the negative 1? So you can still tell the openness of a parabola in either form, right? It's about that A value being negative. Are we good with that? Cool. One more. See if you can find it all with a neighbor. Work together. Pause the video. Give it a shot. I got A to be negative 5, H to be 6, and punching that in, holy cow, did I get a big K value of 188, but he is correct. So I will have one small mistake in here. What is my mistake in that guy right there? That would make a line if I graphed it, right? Because it needs to be a parabola. What makes it a parabola? Squared. It's also, when typing it into your computer, oops, forgot the squared, you know, like what did I do wrong? You know, forgot that little guy. How do you feel about taking a guy from standard form and putting him in vertex form? You need 3 ingredients, A, H, and K. And the easiest one is usually the hardest one. How do you find A? Right? It is provided for you. All right, so now let's see if we can figure out what's different here. I'm going to give you guys a chance to think. They're still asking us to do this. Write this guy in vertex form, right? So, but what's different? Talk with a neighbor. What do you think? What's different? It's cool if we're not sure. Well, he says it's not in standard form. They didn't even give me anything in standard form. Does that kind of make sense? What did they give me? They gave me what? The coordinates of one of them is the vertex. What about the other guy? Is there anything special about him? It's just some random point on the parabola. Sound cool? So here's what we'll do. We're gonna outsmart the system. Which one's the vertex? Cool. Watch this. This will be a lifesaver. We're gonna put H right here and K right there. Would you believe the vertex is a very special ordered pair on this parabola? He also is known as HK, right? But this guy right here, plain Jane point, right? Plain Jane. How about X, Y? Does that sound okay? And then check out this formula right here, baby. Just you got to watch me do this. This is what they want the final answer to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters right there. Yes? Right? Y, A, X, H, and K. 5 letters. They gave me 4 of them. Do I have an x value? Do I have a y value? Do I have an h value? Do I have a k value? Which one didn't they tell me? A. Are you with me on that? So we will take all of the given ingredients. This x is 4, y is 0, h is 2, and k is -4. Do you see how they gave me those things? We're going to substitute them into that formula and solve for A. So I'm going to do it just kind of like right here. Y is 0. Are we okay with that? Seeing where I'm getting that from? And then equals is next. A, I don't know him, so he's going to be A. Then there is a parenthesis. What do you want me to put in for x? 4 minus h. How much is h? 2. And then a quantity squared. And then k is a -4. Are you with me on that? Like I just subbed in the 4 ingredients that they told me. Now, the hardest part is doing the order of operations to clean this up. There are parentheses in this problem. There are exponents in this problem. There is multiplying. There is subtracting. What should we do first? What do you want to do first according to order of operations? Parentheses. But I think we're smart enough to do 2 things at the same time. Don't we need to do this? Aren't there like terms inside of there? What's 4 minus 2, bro? 2. What's the next thing that has to happen to it? It would get squared, right? How do you feel about doing like 2 moves at once, right? Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. In the pink is 2. I need to square that. What would I get back? 4. Now here's where you could do your brain a huge favor or make it very, very complicated. Now I'm going to put a 4 in this spot, but what's happening right here? What is this right here? Multiply. What do you think? A4 or 4A? What is the more proper way to write that down? Isn't 4A make a lot more sense? So I'm going to start from the left to the right. This is a 0. This is an equals. And I have cleaned all this stuff up right here to be 4A in blue. The pink thing is 2. I raised it to the 2nd power and got 4. But it is also being times A right there. So I wrote 4A. And then isn't there this -4 hanging out with it? Are you with me on that? Cool. If you do that right here, beep, I'll bet you will never make a little weird order of operations mistake, which I'll show you in another problem. I want to do this one right first. Is that okay? So I want to solve this for A. What's my move to solve this for A? Let's add this 4 over, right? And then there is a times 4. Shan't we divide by 4 to do that? What did we get for A? 1. It is okay if that comes out to be a fraction, by the way. It is very common for that number to be like a 2/3 or a 3/4 or something like that. So the A value is 1, right? So I'm going to go back up here. Boom! Just found A to be 1. H and K, do I got to do like opposite of B over 2 times A? Or did they tell me H and K? They told it to me. H is 2, K is -4. Right? They gave me that because I need 3 ingredients to write an equation in Vertex form. I need A, I need H, and I need K. They gave me 2 of the 3. We had to find A. So let's do our final answer here. The equation would be y equals A is 1, which honestly you don't have to like put the 1, but I'm going to do it just for the sake of it. X, and then H is 2, so I'm going to do -2, quantity squared, -4. What really throws people off is they're like, well, like, I get the A, H, and K. You have to have an X and a Y in your equation when you write it also. And you know what else you have to have? The squared guy. It makes him a parabola. So that's kind of interesting. When they give you a point and they give you a vertex, we're going to do this. Please, please, please do it because it really helps me grade this. What is this? This point. Is he just plain Jane XY or is he HK? Yeah, he is XY because the vertex is the fancy boy, right? Isn't he HK? So HK. What don't we know? A. So let's substitute these 4 things into that formula and solve for A. So Y is 7. A, I don't know him. X is 1. Then minus H. Hey, if that was a negative, you do like minus a minus. And what does minus a minus turn into? Plus, right? So, but it's not. He's just -3 squared. and then k is 5. Before we go too far, how do you feel about me putting the numbers where I put the numbers? Nice. Let's see what's in the parentheses first. 1 minus 3 is not 2. What's 1 minus 3? Negative 2. It's going to get squared. What would you get back on that? 4, right? So let's do it. 7 equals A4 or 4A. And we've just had a coincidence. It's not always going to be a 4A. It's happened that way both times, but it's going to be something A, right? So 4A plus 5 in that case. Rock on. Solve for A. So 4A equals 2, right? And now tell your neighbor what you got for A. Sometimes the brain wants to trick us. Should A equal 2 or should A equal 1/2? Yeah, you got to do 2 divided by 4. And sometimes people like to bring back the baby steps on that. It's like, yeah, I got to divide by 4, and that's going to be a 1/2 in that case. So it's an optical illusion that you see a 2, you see a 4, you just automatically think 2. It's like, ah. So let's write our final answer. But I got to show you, because I thought maybe I had some other ones. I don't know why I did that. So I got to show you some mistakes that people make. Vertex is 3, 5. Sorry, I didn't go back and fill these out. I'll do that real quick. Did I do that right? Sometimes I make mistakes. Did I do that right? Okay, let me show you something, though. I think you guys are going to do just fine with this, but what if I would have had this line? Do you see how I wrote A, I'll even put a dot in there, times 4. Instead of 4A, I wrote A4, right? Here's the most common mistake people do. Then they go 7 equals 9A. Where did they get 9 from? They added 4 and 5 together. Why can't you add 4 and 5 together in that case? Because there is multiplication going on right here, right? And doesn't that have to be done before you can do any addition? But it's so weird because you wrote it backwards. It's like, oh, 4 plus 5. 4 plus 5 is 9. If you write it like this, you will never be tempted to add the 4 and the 5 together because you can tell they're not like terms. So all good stuff. Feel okay with that? And then it looks like we got a lot. It's not that bad, especially after we get the first one done. We're going back to what form right here? Standard form or vertex form? Standard form. We're going to graph the parabolas a little more accurately this time. Last time we just found a few things and sketched it. Let's do a pretty accurate graph. Let's identify A, B, and C first. You can do that. A, B, and C. A is 1, B is, and C is. Very good. I love it. I love it. I love it. The most important part on the parabola, in any case, is the vertex. I can't tell just by looking because this is not in vertex form. He is in standard form. So how do I find the x value of the vertex? Opposite of B over 2 times A. Sometimes people are like, do you want us to call that H or do you want us to call that X? It really doesn't matter in this case, you know. H is fine. I still kind of do X, right? So let's find that bad boy. So 6 over 2, right? And then I got 3 for that. But that's just the X value of the vertex. Sub that homeboy back in and find the Y value of the vertex. So by putting that in, I also got negative 2. Then here's what we're going to discover, right? We're going to make a table of values of this bad boy. Homework's going to have you make a table of values also. But me and Mr. Dreyer, many years ago, like to put this asterisk in this table of values right here because something fancy is going to happen. What we're going to put by the asterisk is the vertex every time. So 3 is the X value, negative 2 is the Y value. Are you with me on that? And then just give me a little trust here of how I want to set this up. I want to pick 6 more numbers. 3 numbers going this way, and 3 numbers going that way. And I want to switch this to a blue instead of a red real quick. I'm going to pick 3 more x values based around the vertex. When I go down the list, I want to get bigger. Who's the next integer bigger than 3? 4, next one, 5, next one, 6. Do you see how I just picked like the next integers after that? Then I want to get smaller going the other direction. So who's the next integer smaller than 3? 2, 1, and then 0. Are you with me on that? So we're going to go old school and find these y values. How? By substituting in. Let's start with 4. Grab a calculator, and let's put 4 in for this guy. So 4 in parentheses squared minus 6 times 4 plus 7. And let's see if we can get -1 back. Did we get -1 back? Cool. We'll put that in the table. Then let's do 5. Seems like this is going to be a lot of work, but just hang in there. 5 squared minus 6 times 5 plus 7. How much? 2. And then let's do 6. So 6. Well, I'm not going to waste your time. How much did you get when you put 6 in there? 7? Cool. All right, so I want to have you pause the video and find the other 3 real quick. First, let's see what we got. What happened when you put 2 in there? What did you get? -1. What happened when you put 1 in? What did you get? 2. And what happened when you put 0 in? 7. Honestly, we probably should have started with that guy, because isn't 0 really an easy one to put in, you know, to where it's like, okay, if that's 0, that's going to be 7, right? So if there's a 0 in your table, use it to your advantage. You don't have to use a calculator in that case. But what do we notice? Those 2, right? How far away from the vertex? 1 above, 1 below. Are you with me on that? How about, were those 2 the same? How far away from the vertex are they? 2. 2 above, 2 below. Are you with me on that? And then what about like those 2? Are they the same? 3 from the vertex. I'm sure we've taken some art classes before, right? Have you heard of the word symmetry at all? There is symmetry around the vertex, right? There is symmetry. So like whatever's on one side is going to be like a cool little reflection to what's on the other side. So let's plot these points. Let's start with the vertex. 3, -2. Been a while since we've plotted some points, kind of. Make sure we're going 3 on the x-axis, -2 on the y-axis. Oh, whoa, time out, Mr. Fine. Still should ask a bonus question. Which way is this parabola going to open? Up, because isn't the a value positive? So our dots should match that. It's a nice little way to check. It's like my dots better match. So that should be the minimum of the graph right there, right? So then I'm going to plot all these blue dots, 4, -1. Bada boom. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go 5, 2. And then I'm going to go 6, 7. It's not like you have to do it in this order. This is just the way I roll with it. I plotted the vertex in red, and then I plotted all those blue dots as well. Cool? And since you've noticed that there is symmetry, you can kind of cheat a little bit if you want to on these green dots. You see, like, if I just kind of look at this level right here, isn't that other green, that first green dot going to be like right there, you know, like 2, -1? It's at the same height of that other blue dot. And then what's the next one? 1, 2. Well, isn't that like at the same height of that other blue dot, right? And then 0, 7, of course. I'm going to get rid of those lines. Is right there. Cool? One thing that I didn't stress too hard for you, it's not your fault, it's my fault, is we can't make this straight when we connect it together. Like, I still haven't handed your test back because not everyone's taken it, but when we made some parabolas, we made them really straight. They're going to look like absolute value graphs if we do that, so we got to make it curved. So do your best, little freehand, to curve that guy. Curve that guy. It's not going to be perfect, but we'll curve him. I missed there a little bit, so I'm going to try again. Cool? So on homework, it's going to have you identify all that stuff, fill out the table, graph the parabola, and also graph the axis of symmetry. Let's use that straight edge and just kind of trust me on this. We're going to make a dashed line. How do you feel about, first, let me just do some that are not the axis of symmetry. Is that an axis of symmetry? Is that like everything on one side of the parabola is a mirror image to the other? No way, right? How do you feel about this, right? Well, let's get a little better shot here. This guy right here. Is everything on one side of this dashed line a mirror image of what's on the other side? So I want to make it dashed because it's not really a part of the parabola. It has nothing to do with it. But I'm going to make a dashed line. Let's put arrows on it. What kind of line is that, dude? Horizontal, vertical, or oblique? What is it? Vertical. How many, if I was to write the equation of that line, would it have both x and y? Only y's or only x's? Been a while. What do you think? Do you remember horizontal lines only have y's with them? Vertical lines only have x, and obliques have like both x and y. So when they ask for the axis of symmetry, it's an equation. It's going to be that vertical line, x equals, and what's the x value of all of those points right here? If I was to put ordered pairs on here, what's the x value of every one of these ordered pairs? 3. Oh my God! What's so special about the number 3 in this particular parabola? It's what? Is that the x value of the vertex? Isn't the axis of symmetry got to go through the vertex? That's where the symmetry is going to be. So let's see if we can go speedy, speedy, speedy on the next two. They ask us to graph it all again. Oh, let's find A, B, and C. Or hold the phone. First, talk about this. Is this even going to be a parabola? Talk about it. What do you think? Is this even going to be a parabola? Or would it be a line? Or would it be something even weirder? What's very different about this guy? Doesn't have what? Doesn't have a C. Doesn't have a other X. What else? Well, let's try this. Do we know who A is? Who would A be? Why do you know that? How do you know where A is always located? In front of what? Okay, I'm agreeing with that. Now let's go back to my other question. Will it be a parabola? What's the biggest exponent you see in this problem? 2, right? It's squared. What do you think? Parabola or line? This is going to be a parabola. But do you see how we're still new at it, which is so awesome, right? You know, it's like a lot of people are like, I don't know if this is going to be a parabola. I didn't ask if it was in standard form. I didn't ask if it was in vertex form. I just asked if I graph this, will it make a parabola? If the biggest exponent is a 2, it's going to make a parabola. Cool? But what's weird? Who's the B value? Is 3 the B value, or is 3 the C value? You knew A was in front of x squared, right? Where is B always located? In front of x. And people said, there is no x. So what number is B? It's got to be a number. So there are, let me see if I can do this. There are no x's. Who is B? 0. 0. You with me on that? Who's the C value? 3. I want to make sure we're cool on that because that's our first very strange one, right? He is a parabola, but there was no x's, right? So that means the B is 0. So to find the vertex, holy mackerel, it's not in vertex form. It actually kind of is, but I don't want to go there today. So we're going to do the opposite of B over 2 times A. Oh, man. Opposite of 0. 0, right? There is no opposite, so it's just 0 over -4. There are still a lot of people who don't think you can do that. You can always punch it in your calculator and see if you get an answer back. If you punch in 0 divided by -4, if it gives you an answer, you can do this. What do you think? Undefined or 0? Yeah. We're dividing by -4. That's totally cool. The first command of math is you can't divide by 0. We are dividing by -4. So the x value of the vertex is at 0. Well, let's find the y value of the vertex. I bet you I don't even need a calculator for that. Don't I have to just put 0 in for x? Right, so that would turn out to be how much right there? 0 plus 3. So boom, boom, 0, 3. He's going to go by the asterisk. Then 3 green numbers here, I want them to be bigger than 0 and also integers. Basically meaning no fractions, no decimals, right? So who's the next integer bigger than 0? 1, 2, 3. Sound cool? Then let's go smaller. -1, -2, -3. And here's the cool thing. Do you actually have to put all 6 numbers in, or is there symmetry around the vertex? Symmetry. Choose wisely. The red ones or the green ones? Who do you think would be easier to put in? The green, right? They are positive numbers. They are positive numbers. So let's put 1 in and just do this. -2 times 1 squared plus 3. Did you get 1 back? So I personally do this. I go 1, and then I go 1. I just kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone right there using the symmetry, right? You got to do 2. You got to do 3. Yeah. So we made our table right here to where I got it all filled out, and then I plotted my dots. And then, of course, I graph my axis of symmetry. He is a vertical line, even though he's right on top of the y-axis. Sorry about that. Even though he's right on top of the y-axis, I'm going to make him a little bit longer so I can see him. And then he is always an equation. He's a vertical line. X equals the x value of the vertex, which was 0. So all I've done on the next one here is find the vertex, right? And the weird thing is getting smaller in your table. It's kind of weird when that's a negative. Who is the next integer bigger than -2? Yeah, -1, then 0, then 1. Are you with me on that? And then getting smaller, -3, -4, -5. It's kind of weird. I would do the green numbers because they have some positives in there and some zeros in there, right? You know, so use any zeros if you got them. So I got a -7, I got a -4, and I got a 1, and then they should be symmetrical. Kind of plot those points once you got them. I still like to plot the vertex first, even though it doesn't matter how you do it on paper. On homework, you will have to plot the vertex first, and then any other point on the parabola. This bad boy should open up, so my dot should kind of follow suit with that. 1, 1. What did I do wrong here? Plotted in the wrong spot. -2, -8 would be better. -1, -7, 0, -4, 1, 1. Yeah, buddy. Then there's symmetry around these others. And then freehand the parabola. Use a straight edge to draw the axis of symmetry. Please read the instructions on the homework of which one they want you to plot first, the parabola or the axis of symmetry. I didn't look that detailed, so it should tell you. If it doesn't tell you, then it probably doesn't matter. But man, am I struggle busting drawing this line. That's supposed to be a vertical line. And that's the best wrong answer you could put for the axis of symmetry. I just put -2. What's wrong with it? -2 is not an axis. An axis has to be a line, right? It has to be a line, and x equals -2 is a line. Cool. Let's do some homework, baby.